I'll record to okay. So today we're going to talk a little bit with Dennis Manuge from Canada. Dennis has a lot to share with us regarding his experience with trauma and how he has managed to navigate his trauma and transform his trauma in a healing way. So Dennis, you were mentioning something earlier about sleep, and I think that's such an important part of life. Let's pick up there and talk about that.
Yeah, sleep is it's such a fundamental piece of the human existence and experience. And in the Western world specifically, as we're killed children and then teens and then young adults, much of our time is spent championing avoiding sleep or staying up late, or can I stay up a few more minutes, or things of that nature. And then being a soldier in the Canadian military, working different hours, sometimes on deployments or exercise, shift workers, many of us have our sleep impacted and negatively impacted throughout our lives. And one of the things I locked in on several years ago, when I really kind of internally switched from a kind of looking externally for something to help me, and kind of gained a sense of empowerment and sought out the things I could do. Sleep was a huge thing that came up in my research, of course. So I've gone from sleeping probably 2.5 to 3 hours a night to now averaging about 8 hours. Get a bit of deep sleep, half an hour to an hour of deep sleep, but my cycles look good, as accurate as these devices can be. But how did I do it? Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things,
what did you do?
Right. So the biggest thing is I set an intention, like, okay, sleep is obviously an issue for me. It's no different than having a sore ankle or, a sore wrist. You have to treat it. You have to put some effort into it. So for me, I hit YouTube, I hit Google, hit the library, found some good science, verified the science, and really got into looking at my own habits. I was spending a fair bit of time with the blue screen, the phone, the MacBook in the evenings. So I was getting a lot of artificial light after supper and before I was going to settle down. That was a big negative impact for my natural circadian rhythm, the natural sunlight that we desperately need as human beings. So the first thing was looking at my exposure to blue light after a certain time. A lot of my entertainment, I use my MacBook and my screen for. So I looked at getting some glasses that change the light, dimming my screen. So just some basic, simple things. So that handled that. Then it was like, well, in order to sleep, a lot of the science says your sleeping environment should be a little cooler.
Right.
Because our body temperature drops between 1 and 3 degrees. And so temperature very much regulates our wake and sleep cycle. So I was like, okay, let's turn that thermostat down. Let's regulate the temperature, take some blankets off, or have layers. So, if you get the chill, right? Another simple thing, but you start adding up a few simple things, and the next thing you're changing your formula or what's going on. So then the next thing was, let me think here for a minute.
Well, what about the things in the room? I've heard about what you shouldn't have in the room, right?
Atmosphere. Thank you, Jan. Thank you. Yes, very important. So a room darkening shade. So, you can get that good, no light. Very nice ambience. I'm very blessed because my wife is a wonderful decorator and has a real feel for colors and warmth and coziness. So she went to work and we got some purples in there and some, just added a little bit of color and some dark but nice color.
And what about another thing that I've heard is, what you should be doing the last hour or two before you turn in.
Absolutely. So that's your wind down time. So you don't want to be really, you don't want to be watching an action show, or you don't want to be involved in anything too heavy duty at that time. You really want to allow yourself, your brain, everything to kind of come down. Certainly reading, anything like that. I got into listening to some yoga nidras or some guided meditations to kind of talk me down. One thing, this kind of was just my thing, but I got really used to Lori's voice, and I got really used to my psychologist as a female. Her name is Tracy. I have two Tracys. My wife is Tracy and my psychologist is Tracy. So I'm blessed with these two wonderful Tracys and Lori. So I love having the voice. Now, some people don't like that or whatever, but me, there's certain voices. Dr. Wayne Dyer. I'll put anything from Dr. Dyer on. He was so positive. Anybody like that. That's just a soft voice and something to just kind of let me drift off. But
so
the biggest
another thing is, what about if you woke up in the middle of the night? Was there anything special that you did to help you get back to sleep again?
Right. So whatever you're going to do, whether you just have to use the washroom quickly or whatever, try to be really quick. Don't turn any lights on. Like, use the minimum amount of light that you can. And then when you get back, if you're the type of person that deals with the anxiety and stuff like that, and your mind starts to go, that's a perfect time to put something soft on, even some white noise. There's just a plethora of recordings on YouTube of various, voice, rain, beach, waves, birds, all of the above. Like, there's just so many tools available. So, just get something on to kind of bring you down, keep you down, your central nervous system kind of suppressed. But the other big thing, Jan, that I really wanted to bring up, and I really feel it's important, especially, coming, not that I'm some special man, but I'm a male, I'm middle-aged, I'm 53 years old, and I'm a former soldier. But what I can tell you that has completely changed everything for me across the board, sleep-wise, recovery-wise, mental health, physical health, chronic pain, is beginning a meditation practice and starting to, as someone that's relatively new, it baffles me how we in the Western world totally missed the bus on meditation and what that allows us to explore and be, and so that's been that probably, just kind of meeting with Lori and beginning the yoga and the breath work. I'd say those, the biggest things are the meditation piece, repairing the sleep, and then that allows me to segue into nutrition. And right, so again, diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, major depressive disorder, chronic pain syndrome, attention deficit. So, all of these labels, and there's a lot of pills that can go with those labels. And there's a time and place for medication, absolutely. I'm not anti-medication, but what I had to figure out on my own or learn on my own is how much or how important what we put in our body and what happens in our belly and our gut biome, and that impact on inflammation in the body, and then the superhighway that goes north to our brain through the vagus nerve. That nerve is primarily a delivery. It's not brain coming down. It's belly going up to communicate with our brain that regulates inflammation, mood, all of these systems. And at a cellular level, that's how we can get into that DNA that's been damaged and stuff through trauma, historical trauma, and start repairing things. So what you have then is a perfect recipe for somebody that was, very unwell, obese, toxic to myself, my family, the people around me. And then this switch to kind of, okay, well, maybe nobody's coming to save me. Maybe I have to do some work myself.
Right, right.
And then, wow. And here we go. I'm 96 pounds lighter, and I've sustained that for a couple of years now. Mood has very much stabilized. No big pharma on board as far as mood, sleep, that kind of thing. And it's a process. And again, Jan, if I may, I'm 53 years old. I grew up in a home with one parent alcoholism. I was the youngest of 10 children. Absolute chaos in the home. And then a military career overseas, the former Yugoslavia, Bosnia, and then back. But if I didn't experience all of that, then I wouldn't ever got to the learning that I've learned. So I love how the Eastern philosophies talk about crisis as danger and opportunity.
Right,
And
right.
I got stuck in the danger for a lot of years, but I slowly kind of worked my way to the opportunity, and then the learning that it can provide, and the healing. And it's just been wonderful.
A new person.
Totally. And I get to meet all kinds of new people through this, like yourself, and get connected to people that, have a different experience and a different, they kind of, we're all kind of getting to the same place, but through our own journey.
And I think it's an important moment right now to say that the main reason we're doing these interviews with you and several other people as we go along is because, in spite of all the professional help that people get and people can get, there's more that they can't get. And when we think of what's going on in Ukraine, and we think about how not only the Ukrainians, but so many of us who are their friends, are going through some sort of a really traumatic experience. The idea is that we can help each other. Just listening to you talk gives me so much hope. And so I didn't want to close today without your mention. You've mentioned food a little bit, and maybe the next interview we can talk some more about food.
Absolutely.
But I didn't want to close without talking about exercise, because that's also, you said you lost 96 pounds, so you know something about that.
Yeah, it's very much so. Now, the first thing I'll go, because you gave me an awesome way to kind of caveat that, is one thing I really learned in the past few years, since I've kind of hit the fifth gear in this recovery journey, is you can't out-train bad nutrition. So weight and, controlling weight is so hormonal and so triggered by when we eat and what we eat, but almost to a point that with me, I was eating like, again, this traditional North American philosophy is, breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, supper, snack, bedtime. I was eating way too often.
Mm-hmm.
So my entire systems, like, my central nervous system was inflamed, my bloodstream's inflamed, my insides are inflamed, everything's inflamed because there's just too much food going in all the time. So for me, one of the first things I did is I looked at my frequency of eating. And then I was kind of following government guidelines and nothing was changing. So I was like, okay, well, let me go back to the drawing board and find some smarter people or some cutting edge people. And then it was like, okay, well, some people go, they only eat a couple times a day.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started experimenting. I started learning about kind of my relationship with food. So,
Mm-hmm.
with the help of my psychologist and actually a couple of apps on the phone, I was able to kind of start recording what I was eating and kind of analyze, well, am I eating because I'm hungry, or am I eating because I'm bored, or, what's going on here? So then, so all of a sudden I started having a bit of success, and then I moved to like a Whole Foods. So let's stop buying stuff in bags and boxes and cans, and
Right.
let's go to the produce section and the meat section, or kind of that kind of thing, and eat whole foods. And then once that happened, it was unreal. It was just the graph, the bar just went down steady, safely, under control. Now, to segue back into the original question about exercise,
Mm-hmm.
as you can imagine, somebody with chronic pain, severe neck injury, shoulder, hip, and SI joint, I having been an athlete my entire life, and then a soldier carrying weight, rucksacking. I did the Canadian Forces Ironman in 1999, so I covered a distance of 50 kilometers with 40 pounds on. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, Jen. I had no idea about movement from a biomechanical standpoint. I didn't understand bracing my core when I'm bending. I didn't understand core when I'm using a lever and reaching for something. I had played hockey, basketball, been a runner, been a soldier, and I had never really learned how to move properly, if you can believe that. So I decided to go right back to the basics along with the yoga practice and begin a mobility program, which basically from my neck to my hands, wrists, elbows, shoulders, hips, knees, ankles. And I started hearing some other people that experience long-term chronic pain have tremendous success mobilizing their entire body. So I use the analogy of I learned from a couple of people, just because you have pain in your back doesn't mean you have a bad back. The degree of dorsiflexion in your ankles, the degree of which your hips can open, and your depth of squat, your thoracic mobility, the ability to go, your spine to move, your shoulders, your neck. So I started learning about all of this, started learning how to move, how to breathe with movement, when to brace, when to tighten the glutes, the core. And what a humbling process. But absolutely valuable, because it really helped me identify where I was imbalanced, front, back, side, And it also gave me the vocabulary that when I go talk to one of my health practitioners, I can now converse with them.
Right, right.
So, you know, between yoga, the exercise, the mobility specifically, and learning movements and what's happening as we move and through compound movements, it's really illuminated that kind of highway of figuring out exactly what's going on. And I have some measure of control over that. So I can retrain the brain to the muscle to get that scapular back a little bit more, so that shoulder's back in the right position to do a lift or to do a pull. And again, being I don't work outside the home any longer due to my disabilities and stuff. So what better way to embrace a morning for somebody in my position? I put my daughter on the school bus. She's 12 years old at 7:30 in the morning. And then I'm right in my sanctuary in the basement on the mats. And, today I was down there for 2 hours and just not strenuously lifting or, going berserko, just moving. And, every joint in my body through the full range, and really falling in love with that process.
So, Dennis, if I have been hearing you correctly, and if I had to make a summary statement or two as we're winding down this interview, I have learned, listening to you, that if we want to take our trauma to the point of transforming us to being a better version of ourselves, we've got to take control.
Absolutely.
Learn so much. You have studied, you have learned, but you have also applied your discipline to a new lifestyle.
Yeah, there's so much opportunity for growth for all of us. So why not use that as the perfect catalyst for change?
Beautiful.
For transformation.
Beautiful. In our next interview, I would like to explore with you this marvelous story that you have been telling me in other moments about how you and your colleagues really led a fight to get more rights for veterans in Canada. A fascinating story. So I look forward to that. I look forward to that, Dennis.
Be my pleasure, Jan, to share that.
Okay, very good. See you next time.
Thank you.